उवाच एवं सततयुक्ता ये भक्तास्त्वां पर्युपासते ये चाप्यक्षरमव्यक्तम् तेषां के योगवित्तमाः। श्रीभगवानुवाच मय्यावेश्य मनो ये माम् नित्ययुक्ता उपासते श्रद्धया परयोपेताः ते मे युक्ततमा मताः। ये त्वक्षरमनिर्देश्यम् अव्यक्तं पर्युपासते सर्वत्र गमचिन्त्यं च कूटस्थमचलं ध्रुवम् सन्नियम्येन्द्रियग्रामं सर्वत्र समबुद्धयः ते प्राप्नुवन्ति मामेव सर्वभूतहिते रताः। क्लेशोऽधिकतरस्तेषाम् अव्यक्तासक्तचेतसाम् अव्यक्ता हि गतिर्दुःखम् देहवद्भिरवाप्यते ये तु सर्वाणि कर्माणि मयि सन्न्यस्य मत्पराः अनन्येनैव योगेन मां ध्यायन्त उपासते तेषामहं समुद्धर्ता मृत्युसंसारसागरात् भवामि न चिरात् पार्थ मय्यावेशितचेतसाम् मय्येव मन आधत्स्व मयि बुद्धिं निवेशय निवसिष्यसि मय्येव अत ऊर्ध्वं न संशयः। अथ चित्तं समाधातुं न शक्नोषि मयि स्थिरम् अभ्यासयोगेन ततः मामिच्छाप्तुं धनञ्जय अभ्यासेऽप्यसमर्थोऽसि मत्कर्म परमो भव मदर्थमपि कर्माणि कुर्वन् सिद्धिमवाप्स्यसि अथैतदप्यशक्तोऽसि कर्तुं मद्योगमाश्रितः सर्वकर्मफलत्यागं ततः कुरु यतात्मवान् श्रेयो हि ज्ञानमभ्यासात् ज्ञानाध्यानं विशिष्यते ध्यानात् कर्मफलत्यागः सर्वभूतानां मैत्रः करुण एव च निर्ममो निरहङ्कारः समदुःखसुखक्षमी सन्तुष्टः सततं योगी यतात्मा दृढनिश्चयः मय्यर्पितमनो बुद्धिः यो मद्भक्तः स मे प्रियः यस्मान्नो द्विजते लोकः लोकान्नो द्विजते च यः हर्षामर्षभयोद्वेगैः मुक्तो यः स च मे प्रियः अनपेक्षशुचिर्दक्षः उदासीनो गतव्यथः सर्वारम्भपरित्यागी यो मद्भक्तः स मे प्रियः यो न हृष्यति न द्वेष्टि न शोचति न काङ्क्षति शुभाशुभपरित्यागी भक्तिमान् यः स मे प्रियः समशत्रौ च मित्रे च तथा मानापमानयोः शीतोष्णसुखदुःखेषु समसङ्गविवर्जितः तुल्यनिन्दास्तुतिर्मौनी सन्तुष्टो येन केनचित् अनिकेतस्थिरमतिः भक्तिमान् मे प्रियो नरः ये तु धर्म्यामृतमिदम् यथोक्तं पर्युपासते श्रद्धानामत्परमाः भक्तास्तेतीव मे प्रियाः ॐ तत्सदिति श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासु उपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्यायां योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्णार्जुनसंवादे भक्तियोगो नाम द्वादशोऽध्यायः।
Hari Om to everyone. Wishing you a very, very happy Ganesh Chaturthi. May the Lord Ganesha, Lord Vignesha, remove all our obstacles towards a path of liberation. So with that, let us get started. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Vakratunda Mahakaya Surya Koti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kuru Me Deva Sarva Karyeshu Sarvada Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambam Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidwaram Sadgurum Brahma Vidwaram. Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Shri Saraswatyai Namaha. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. So with the grace of the Lord and the blessings of the Guru Parampara, we are now on the last session of this 4-part series on Bhakti Yoga from the chapter 12 of Bhagavad Gita. So let us chant the 2 verses from the Gita Dhyana, the first and the last one. Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavatam Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Kratitam Purana Muninam Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitam Ridavarshinim Bhagavatim Ashtadashadhyayinim Ambatvam Anusantatami Bhagavad Gita Bhavatveshini. Yam Brahma Varunendra Rutra Marutaha Stunvanti Divyaistavaihi Vedai Sangha Padakramopanishadaihi Gayanti Yam Samagaha Dhyanavastita Datkatena Manasa Pashyanti Yam Yoginaha Yasyantam Navidhusura Suraganaha Devaya Tasmai Namaha Devaya Tasmai Namaha. Sarvadharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Vraja Aham Tva Sarva Papebhyaha Mokshayishyami Ma Shuchaha. So we started the lecture series as a clarion call for bhakti. Why bhakti? What is the reason for bhakti at such times? We have discussed this before about how we live today in this world where we identify ourselves so much with our own individuality, our aham. And as we identify with this aham, we find that the mamatva or the minus comes into everything. And when this minus attacks us, like how the virus has, what we're facing today, then we find that as we go through life and the many situations and the many decisions that we have to take, we end up many times, maybe not always, but many times, confused if this was the right decision that I'm taking. And I'm uncertain, I'm perplexed, I'm not very clear, I'm sometimes disoriented. So in all these times, there are reasons where I need to forget that it is that it is I who is really acting in this world. And in order to transition from this I need to first try and see how I can dilute this I to we, where I can actually spread my oneness towards all the people, towards everything that I do. And from here on, it is important that I finally recognize that in and through me, in and through every beings, in every relationship that I'm in everything that I'm associated with, what we have is nothing but that support, that substratum, that divine being, that Ishvara who is the great support. And that Ishvara is who I need to recognize in my life. And it is through that I recognize how important is bhakti needed today. And what exactly is that? At the end of the day, bhakti is nothing but that unconditional love which is needed today in order to face these situations, in order to make many such decisions, in order to understand that the only thing that is left today is that unconditional love, which is what Lord Krishna, in the form of that absolute substratum, is showing us in Bhagavad Gita. So we also, when we started the lecture, we said one of the great uncertainties we are facing today is this coronavirus. This coronavirus has come to our lives to teach us some lessons. And let us see what those lessons are. When it attacks computers, we know that the virus literally takes the ability away from us to do our job. It is an extended kosha for us. We think we have 5 koshas. Now we have an extended kosha of this computer, which paralyzes us when the virus hits us. When it hits our human being, well, which is what we are looking at now, we can say that it takes care of so many different functions. Recently I saw a note on MSN about at least 50 or 60 different functions. It just paralyzes you and finally numbs you. Well, for all this, there is a vaccine that is being generated, right? So, what is the virus for us? How can we recognize this virus in a different way? This virus at a higher level, even beyond the body, is this vital information resources under siege. This virus that has consumed us, which makes us so perplexed and uncertain and confused and everything, is literally, there's a tremendous amount of vital information that is under siege. How can we develop a vaccine for something like this? Well, the vaccine has always existed in the form of our Shastras, the Bhagavad Gita, the Upanishads, the Brahma Sutra, the Bhagavatam, the Ramayana. All these have the vaccine for us. And today, we are going to look at basically 36 qualities of a true bhakta, which is the vaccine for us. Even if one of these things work, guess what? There are no side effects. Matter of fact, it just multiplies even more when you have 36 of them. So we're going to see that today, pretty much for most of our session today. And towards the end, we will have a short summary of everything that we have gathered so far. When we think about bhakti in chapter 12, as an overall picture, we have seen the bhakti sadhanas. And in the last 3 sessions, we saw how these sadhanas or disciplines, they address both the saguna bhaktas, that is bhaktas who want a form to worship, and bhaktas also who are nirguna bhaktas, who want a formless. But the 36 qualities of the devotee comes more closer to us now, as I mentioned, it's a vaccine, as something that I can inject within myself to recognize that who I am. I'm already that, but it's like, gold, for example. When gold is mined, it comes as this real brown, blackish stuff. And you have to kind of clean it up, clean the whole thing out. And once you clean it, you have this bright nugget of gold which is shining in front of you. And that shine, that luster doesn't change no matter what. And that is really who we are. We are already bright. And the Lakshanas are going to show us how that what I am, I'm going to actually gather this back. And this we are going to learn by understanding the qualifications of a true devotee. How does a true devotee, how does a bhakta look like? What are all the beautiful ornaments of a bhakta that I can actually understand, and I can claim that to be my own stuff also, so that I can be a true bhakta as well. And this is where Bhakti Yoga and chapter 12 is so powerful. In a very short capsule, it addresses each one of them. So let's begin with the shloka number 13 straight away. We covered this last time. We'll briefly look at it today as well. Adveshta sarva bhutanam maitra karuna evacha nirmamo nirahankaraha samadukha sukha kshami. Beautiful verse. About 7 such beautiful qualities are described, starting with Adveshtha. Adveshtha, which means absence of hatred towards all beings. The word Adveshtha, it comes, if you look at it, it is from Dveshta, which means Dveshta means hatred. Dvesha means hatred. But even this word Dvesha can be looked into 2 parts. And that's the beauty about Sanskrit, which the minute you hear the word and you understand the meaning, it just hits you, and it just makes so much of sense. And if I just revel in that just one word, I can see how I can transform this even in my own life. So Dvesha comes from Dvi, Vesha, Visha. Dvi meaning 2, and Visha means the hatred. So this Dvisha essentially addresses not just the person who I'm hating, but it also affects me. Dvisha, 2. It also means something where I'm seeing an otherness. I'm seeing a duality in somebody else. So you see, the minute I create that separation from somebody, I'm automatically saying that that person is different from me. And immediately the judgment comes in, and immediately my mind just goes off in a roll. So how do I bring this back? By saying that Adveshtha, absence of hatredness. That's the beauty about Adveshta. And Adveshta, if you look at it, it is, when I say hatred, it seems like the word is just hanging there, right? But many times we don't just say, I hate. I said, I hate you. You can see the minute I say, I hate you, there's so many things that's happening. First of all, I'm addressing somebody, and that addressing of that ego creates immediately that sense or a feeling. And it also, I can see my eyes going red, I can feel my blood boiling, I can feel my sweating. So imagine if you think about somebody whom you hate in your life, how that feeling comes in. But then this word dvesha basically saying that I am the same in you or the inner meaning. If that is the case, then this hatred has to be something which is an illusion, right? So how can I have hatred against somebody when I'm supposed to have love? So adveshta is such a powerful word from that point of view. Next, if I don't have hatred, I will have only love or friendliness towards everyone, right? So that is maitra, adveshta sarva bhutanam. Sarva bhutanam, I have no hatred against anybody. It doesn't matter whether it is my relative, it doesn't matter if it's a friend or foe or anybody. It basically hits the core of the diversity itself. We talk about so many different important areas today, and now you can see how adveshta hits the core of things like racism, caste, color, creed, economic status, nothing. Sarva bhutanam, not just humans, but also animals. And so it almost already leads to this aspect of friendliness or maitra, which again, the word comes from mit. Mit is a dhatu, which means snehane, or basically snehane is having the feeling of friendliness. So we have that friendliness along with hatred, which is taken care of. The next one is karunaha. Karunaha or compassion. Adveshta sarva bhutanam maitra karuna evacha. What a beautiful word, karuna. I know we had a lot of things where we were looking at how can we hit the virus with karuna. Now you see, this is a beautiful reference here, which can be used to fight the coronavirus itself, or the underlying theme as to why the virus has come into our lives today. The underlying theme trying to show that there is a lot of things that we need to repair in this world, and that can be done through compassion. So karunaha is compassion. And the beautiful thing about karuna, there's a very nice verse in Panchadasi, chapter 1, Tattva Vivekaha by Vidyaranya Swami. In that, Swami Vidyaranya gives 3 beautiful verses. He talks about how we as jivas have come into this world just like the insects in a whirlpool. He does this comparison, and he says about how when the insects are caught in a whirlpool, in a river, the insects, they try their best to get out of those whirlpool, but lo and behold, they fall into another whirlpool. And then again from that into another whirlpool. And this is how we as jivas are living in this world, where we also are trying to escape this whirlpool of senses. And this beautiful thing is how when a great Mahatma comes into our lives, where I recognize that when I'm in this whirlpool caught up with my senses and into this world, the samsara, the only thing that can pull me out of this is Bhagwan's grace and the blessings of Mahatmas and listening to the satsangs. So the Mahatma with great compassion with great karuna, pulls us out, and it is only with that that we can actually go towards God and towards liberation. A beautiful story that was told to us also by Swami Tejomananda at this point was, there was once a Mahatma. This Mahatma would stand near on the banks of a river, and once as he was standing there, he saw this scorpion trying to come to the shore. So he would go lovingly pick up the scorpion and put it on the shore. And pretty soon, the scorpion again tries to wander into the water. And again, he pulls it out and brings it back to the shore. And every time this was happening, the scorpion would sting him. And I'm not sure how many of you have had a sting of a scorpion. I know I have. And I know it is extremely painful. Extremely painful. It can be poisonous. And so you had this onlooker who was looking at this Mahatma and asked him, why are you doing this? Why are you pulling this scorpion every time? Why don't you just put it and let it drown? So the Mahatma said something beautiful. He said, it is the nature of the scorpion to sting, but it is the nature of a human being to be compassionate. And all I'm doing is I'm just exhibiting what I'm supposed to be doing. That was a beautiful story which really touched our hearts at the time. So that is compassion. Absence of minus or attachment. This goes back to what I mentioned earlier about how we have so much of I-ness and minus in our interactions. My car, my house, my thing. And in doing so, we are losing so much amount of energy. After all, things have come into our lives. Things are going to go away. When I came here, we had nothing when we came. We're not going to take anything with us. So what are we trying to hold on to? So absence of minus, nirmama, nirahankaraha. Nirahankara, absence of the I-ness. Both of them needs to be addressed. Again, whenever we do any project, we are so immediately, we rush to claim ownership or credit for what we have done. Guess what? If I have to get the credit, it will come. This is something that I think over years, we finally recognize as a law of life. That if something has to happen, it will happen. If it didn't happen, it means that there were a lot of factors that Ishvara decides in order to recognize if that is to come to me or not. Karturagneya prapyate phalam. From Upadeshasaram beautifully talks about the role of karma leading to results. And then equanimity in joy and sorrow, which is again such an important aspect which is needed. And it comes when I recognize that I'm not looking at external objects for joy and sorrow, and I can be content with what I have. And finally, so samadukha sukha and forbearance or kshama. Kshama, what a beautiful value. It is an extension of titiksha. Titiksha is when I have a tolerance, when I have tolerance for the various opposites in our lives. But kshama goes one step even further, where a classic example of this is when Gandhiji says, show the other cheek to someone who is coming to hit you on one cheek. What does that really mean? It essentially is, I recognize that the divinity is in me, is the other person, whatever the person is trying to do, I'm trying to not get affected That doesn't mean that I have to be quiet. I have to address it. But it is again the question of addressing the message, but not the messenger. So Kshama is beautiful from that point. So in here, literally, as you can see, there are 7 values which helps us from a devotee's perspective. A bhakta has all these qualities. And it is those qualities because of which the Lord feels he is my own self. He is dear to me. And it has so much of implications in our own vyavaharik world. The next one. Santushta satatam yogi yatatma drida nischayaha mayyar pitamano buddhihi madbhaktas me priyaha yo madbhaktas me priyaha. Santushtaha satatam yogi. A person who is content. Satatam, always. Yogi. Yatatma, which is self-controlled. Drida nischayaha, firm in his conviction. Mayyar pita mano buddhihi madbhaktas me priyaha. Mayyar pita mano buddhihi, who has offered his mind and intellect to me. Such a person is dear to me. So santushtaha, contentment. Again, going back to the I, to we, to he. Today, I'm not 100% content with everything what I'm doing. This is how we lead our lives. The mind doesn't let me stay. I want more and more and more. Even when I think I've got everything, I still want more. So when does a bhakta really become santushtaha? He becomes santushtaha when he is constantly remembering the name of the Lord. When he is in that Bhagavat Smaranam. In fact, there's a beautiful bhakti verse which says that Bhagavat Vismaranam Maranam me tasya. A bhakta feels that only when he's not remembering the Lord, it's actually death for him. It's a constant shruti which goes in his mind. And that's the level of contentment that he has. And here we have a story about how Alexander, it is said that when Alexander, after he had he had conquered almost more than half of the world, and he goes back to Greece, and when he was about to die, he told his people that when you lay me in the coffin, have with my hands out. Let everyone see that even as I got so much and I conquered so much, when I'm exiting this world, I'm not taking anything with me. So contentment is to recognize that I have everything, but I do not need anything more. How can I now turn my attention to the Lord and to recognize that he alone is everywhere? The next one is Santushta Satatam Yogi Yatatma Drida Nischayaha. Yatatma, when my mind is not agitated and it is Santushtaha, it is in self-control. And such a self-controlled mind alone can be Drida Nischayaha, or firm determination. The firm determination is, I'm 100% convinced that there is that Ishvara up there. There is that Lord. And he will take care of me no matter what. That is the firm conviction. And this again is the conviction which helps us to get over any kind of confusions, any uncertainties. If you think back in March, when we started hearing more and more the news about the coronavirus, the thought went through my mind, oh my God, what's going to happen? When are we going to get back to normal? When are we going to get back to normal? If I can just turn that attention of my mind to that Lord and knowing that He is going to take care of it, He's going to decide when and how things are going to come, then I can focus my energy in much more important things. If I can do that for that, how do I use that same energy to do care of the more important things where I need to do it well? So, santushtaha satatam yogi. So a yogi is not somebody, with a big beard and sitting under the tree and going to the Himalayas. No, a yogi can be a bhakta. A yogi can be a jnani yogi. Last week, we saw about 4 different examples of the bhaktas, an arti, an artharti, a jignasu, as well as a jnani. And at the end, he says, jnani to atmaiva me matam. That jnani, that yogi is very dear to me. So, contentment, self-control, firm determination, and finally leading to mayar pita mano buddhihi. Maihi, putting my mind and intellect, completely surrendering to that Lord, that person, that bhakta is extremely dear to me. So important, again, addressing at the mind level all the confusions which we go through, and in order to arrest a lot of them, this contentment, self-control, firm determination is needed, and ultimately always resting our mind and intellect in the Lord, understanding that I'm only an instrument through which the work needs to get done in this world. Next, we have Yasma no dvijate lokaha, loka no dvijate chayaha, harsha amarsha bhayaha utvegaihi, muktaha yaha sacha me priyaha. So now we are coming to the qualities of the bhakta, in how, again, the world looks at him. Yasmat na dvijate lokaha. A person who is, nobody looks at him with fear. A person who is so full of love and compassion. Just being in the presence of such a person brings so much amount of peace in the hearts of the people who go to be in his presence. He doesn't create any agitation to the world. People are very comfortable around such a person, with he or she. The person is full of energy, full of laughter, full of love. And if I can use a chemical term here, in chemistry, we have this concept of photochemistry, where you have these electrons being excited to go to higher levels. And then, they come down when they lose energy. You see these Mahatmas at a very low, steady state of energy. They are not excited at all. So we want to be in the state We want to be in the company of such people. That's the satsanga. So no agitation for the world. Unagitated by the world. So when such a person who recognizes he is in the lap of Ishvara, and Ishvara is going to take care of everyone, why would he be agitated by the temporariness of the world? Such a person recognizes that viruses may come and go, economy might rise up and go down, presidents may come and go, but I need to be completely shielded by any one of those. And such a person is unagitated. And when such a person is unagitated, he doesn't get elated. Harsha, amarsha, bhaya, udvega. Harsha, which is excitement or elatement. If things come to him, he recognizes, well, I happen to be in the right place at the right time. Tomorrow I may not be in the right place at the right time. So why do I have to have that elation? Envy. There is no separatedness between him and another person. So even if such a person were to be in a competition, what I'm looking at, how I can relate to our lives, I recognize that I'm only competing with myself. So why would I feel envious of another person? And then such a person would not have any bhaya. Again, an important word. Fear comes into us only when I recognize that I'm somebody else, I'm separate. But when I am in that lap of Ishvara, he's going to take care of me. So why have any fear? And anxiety, anxieties which kills us, leads to so much of stress. Such a person is not agitated. Such a person does not create any agitation in other person, and who has absence of all these things. Moving on to another beautiful verse. Anapekshaha shuchir dakshaha udasinaha gatavyataha sarva ramba parityagi sarva aramba parityagi yo mad bhakta same priyaha. The Lord is most happy because of the bhakti of the bhakta. Nothing else. He doesn't make any distinction. He does not say that. Many times these questions come up about why me? Why is God punishing me? What did I do? So Ishvara doesn't have any of those kind of this. Bhaktya tushyati kevalam na gunaihi bhakta priyo madhava. Beautiful saying which says that the Lord is only happy tushtihi by the bhakti of the bhakta. He doesn't worry about any of the qualities. As much as we worry about sometimes, oh, I'm not able to go to the temple today. Is God going to punish me for this? I didn't do this puja properly. Is he going to punish me for this? No. He still loves us no matter what. But if you don't go to the temple, or if you don't go to the thing, or if you don't do which is our nitya karmas, then we suffer because of our own actions, not because there's a Lord who is standing up there and who is saying that this person didn't do this, and therefore he's going to be punished by his sins. No. In our faith, we believe that we get punished by our own sins. There's nobody external who is punishing us. So, anapekshaha, a bhakta who is free from wants. Isn't it beautiful here? Anapekshaha. We can go to the next one, where anapekshaha means desirelessness. Iksha means expectation. Apeksha means someone who has an expectation, but anapeksha Somebody who has absolutely no expectation at all. So Ishvara is not expecting anything from us. And all he needs is a bhakti. So Anapekshaha, who has absolutely no expectation from anybody else. And such a person is a bhakta. Next is Shuchihi. So when somebody has no expectation at all, that person is automatically so pure. Shuchihi means purity. Another beautiful word which encompasses many words within, which is Shaucham, a beautiful value from 13th chapter, Swachhatha, and then Pavitrata, Pavitram, which is the ultimate purity. So Shuchihi is having a bhakta is so pure in his mind with absolutely absence of kama, krodha, lobha, mada, matsarya, everything. Such a pure person. Next we have Dakshaha. Dakshaha, a quality which is so close to our heart, something which we need, which is alertness. Alertness leads to dexterity in action. Yoga karma sukaushalam. We have seen this in second chapter. And this alertness is again so needed for us to be efficient and conserve our energy. Dakshaha. Udasinaha. Unconcerned. And gatavyataha. Udasina, again, another beautiful word. The Sanskrit breakdown for this is ud and asinaha. Ud means above. Asinaha means sitting. Okay, asanam, which is sitting. So ud asinaha. So a person who is sitting above anything that is happening, he is so, he's way above anything that's any problems of the world. This reminds me of really a surfer. A surfer, when an expert surfer who's surfing on the waves of the ocean, he's constantly above the waves, whether it's small waves or the big waves. He has to make sure that he's always up. Requires so much of daksha, so much amount of nipuna. He has to be a daksha. He has to be a nipunaha for being above the problems. Again, a beautiful reminder on how I can take the problems and recognize that these are just coming and going. Agama payino nityaha tamsitikshasva bharata. We have seen this verse before where things may come and go, but I need to be above that. Udasinaha. Untroubled, gatavyataha. We have seen trouble comes in three different forms: Adi Devika, Adi Bhautika, Adhyatmika. Adi Devika is this virus. Adi Bhautika, which is all these wars and these issues that countries face each other. And Adhyatmika, my own problems because of mental. A bhakta is never troubled by any of this. And finally, Sarva Ramba Parityagi, renunciation of all undertakings. Sounds sometimes a little confusing, right? What is Lord Krishna trying to say? Is he saying that I should not start some new projects here? Should I just sit, and then wait for things for me to happen, and whatever my boss says, I say yes, no? No. He already said dakshaha, being alert. So here, renunciation basically means to give up the notion that I am starting things. I was talking to a former Balabihar kid, and a person extremely bright, has done extremely well, and this person had a lot of responsibilities. On one hand, it was Responsibility is about wanting to um, make sure that the patents that I'm filing for the company, that the company doesn't give me the rights to, or doesn't give me the recognition for it. And on the other hand, making sure that the customers recognize that I'm really helping them. You know, a youngster, really bright, wanting to make the mark in the world. So I was working with this person, and I was telling, I mean, at the end of the day, I may start a patent and I may think that that's going to bring millions of dollars for the company. But even for that, I had the resources and the support of so many people. So how can I claim that I was the one who filed the patent and I need the royalties and I need to be recognized? At the end of the day, everything, there is no such thing as a discovery, right? It's something that is, we are just uncovering things, is what discovery is. So who am I to take credit for this? All I should be happy is I'm there to be in that place where I can use my talents, my abilities in the proper way. And therefore, this is such a beautiful reminder again. Renunciation of all undertakings means that, yes, I have to start new things. Yes, I have to complete things for the company. I have to see it go through different phases. But in and through, I'm only playing a role. That is all I'm doing. I'm just a karana. I'm an instrument. When I have that aspect in me, then I can enjoy anything and everything. The next one, yo na hrishyati na dveshti, na shochati na kankshati, shubha ashubha parityagi, bhakti manya same priyaha. So, yo na hrishyati, he does not rejoice. Na dveshti, he has no hatred. Na shochati, does not grieve. Na kankshati, does not have any personal desires. Na kankshati, kankshati again is a nice word here. Shubha ashubha parityagi, bhakti manya same priyaha. A continuation of some of the theme from the previous shloka, where when I renunciate, when I give up my ownership of actions, then whatever comes to me, I take it as a prasada buddhi. So I'm neither again elated or rejoiced. So many times we have this feeling of elation or success that I did it. It's also called as a pride, you know, darpayati, which is, darpa means pride. There's a certain sense of pride, and that leads to this elation. And we see this in some Puranic stories too. For example, Ravana, you know, when he had so much of pride in him, even though he is a great devotee of Lord Shiva, he used all the tapas that he had done and the things that he got in a very prideful way in achieving his objects. And that is what is referred to here. Na hrishyati, and then no hatred at all, absence of hatred towards all beings, which is again such an important aspect here. To be able to recognize, just like how we have a coin with two sides, okay? I see one side and I react to it all the time. But if I recognize that that person whom I'm trying to hate also has another side, but yet is one coin, then where is the hatred? Where is anything? That person is just an extension of me. So when I have that thought, I cannot have hatred towards any beings. Absence of grief. Again, grief comes only because of my own attachment. When I recognize that this world is full of what is born has to die, from the womb to the tomb, as they say, then I have to recognize that things happen which has been ordained in its own way. I don't have control over it. Therefore, what is grief? Absence of desire, which is again giving up this aspect of what I have done, and renunciation of good and evil, which is not only do I give up my actions, which was sarva arambha parityagi, which was mentioned over in the previous verse, but renunciation of the results coming out of it too, where I offer that to the Lord. And when I do that, my mind is in shanti. Such a devotee is me priyaha, is what he says, which is in the verse. Next is samashatrau cha mitre cha tatha manapa manayoho shitoshna sukha dukkheshu samasangavivarjitaha. I'm sure some of you would have recognized a similar verse in the karma section, where we have sukha dukkhe same kritva labha labhav jaya jayav. Again, talking about the mind, which needs to maintain the balance in the midst of opposites. Sama shatrau cha mitre cha. Samaha, which is being balanced with whether it's a friend or a foe. Tatha manapa apamanayoho. So mana, honor, and apamana, dishonor. Shita ushna. Shita, heat, and cold. Equanimity in heat and cold. And then tatha manapamanayoho. Shitoshna sukha dukkheshu tatha manapamanayoho, which is again equanimity in pleasure and pain. Such a bhakta is dear to me. And such a person is a person who does not have any attachment. You can see again how Lord Krishna and Gurudev actually analyzes the shloka from the point of body, mind, and intellect. At the body level, if I have a titiksha towards whether it is cold or whether it's heat, as in Germany, there used to be a saying that when it is very cold, it is not the fault of the weather, but it's the fault of us, which is you don't have enough layers. So as you put in more layers, you're not going to feel cold. So equanimity in heat and cold is shitosha sukha dukkheshu. Tatha manapa apamanayoha. At the mind level, if I recognize that I can be not swayed by things that people are telling me, which are praising me, which will come to the next one, which is praise and censure, but here it is honoring me or dishonoring me. We have this great example of Gurudev. In the beginning, when he was trying to establish the Chinmaya mission, he goes from Pune. Some of you who have seen this beautiful episode in the movie Quest, we see him going from Pune to Chennai. And in Chennai, we have this very staunch conservative Brahmin community who is aghast that he could be talking about the Shastras to the common man. And so they try to dishonor him. But Mahatmas, they are way above a lot of these things. In fact, they say if you get swayed by this problem, that means you don't know what your goal is in life. Therefore, if your goal at the end of the day is Ishvara, anything and everything you can just take it off your shoulders. So equanimity in honor and dishonor. We have another example of also Gautama Buddha, who was, as he was sitting in the forest, people would come, there was one person who would come and spit on him and would shower all kinds of negative words. But Buddha was never affected by this. So coming to the last shloka in this series of 36 values, Tulya Ninda Stutir Mauni Santushtaha Yena Kenachit Aniketaha Stiramatihi Bhaktiman Me Priyo Naraha. So for whom Tulya is again another word which is used in the same context as a balance. Tulya Ninda is censure or insult, and Stuti means praise. Stuti Mauni, a person, Mauna Shilavan, who is silent, who is a person who is very conservative in his amount of speech, and something which, of course, being at this time of Corona, we can definitely learn. Santushtaha yena kena chitta aniketaha stiramatihi bhaktiman me priyo naraha. So equal-minded in censure and praise. We saw something similar, mana pamana yoho, but there it is honor and dishonor. Here it is in praise or insult. Such a bhakta is equal-minded, who knows again this is all just temporary. Silence, maunam, a beautiful sadhana. When we were in Sandipani, we had one day which used to be a maunam day. Tuesdays used to be a maunam day. And Swamiji would really ask us to maintain this because it does have tremendous amount of benefit. It's something that I would strongly encourage we should all practice this. To tell myself for 2 hours or whatever amount of time I want to do, to be able to maintain a silence. The amount of energy conservation again. But here we are referring to a bhakta who's a mauni, who's able to have that aspect, who's always in a state of maunam from a point of view is not that he's always very quiet, but he talks only when it is needed. And here, santushta yena kena chitta. Yena kena. This is again those two words which goes together, which is santushta, whether it goes up, whether it goes down, he's still content. Again, to contrast with santushta satatam yogi. In santushta satatam yogi, it means that he's always forever content because he recognizes that he is not this person with the body, mind, intellect which can get troubled. But here, the santushta is irrespective of what goes up and down, he's still content. Aniketaha, beautiful word again. Niketan, we know, means house, right? Aniketaha means homeless. A bhakta doesn't recognize this as my house, that as my house. He's able to stay away from it and say that everything belongs to him, the Lord, and I am just there to enjoy what is being given to me. Aniketaha. Stiramatihi, steady-minded. Again, not allowing anything to disturb. Such a person is full of devotion. So you see, we have 36 values. Even if we take one of these values and practice this, say even once a week, you can see the changes it can help in how we can be transformed. That's the beauty about this chapter 12. In such a small capsule, you have 20 different ways in which we can transform, something which we can relate to, something which we can really take it and practice. So the last verse, Yetu dharmyam ritamidam yathoktam paryupasate shraddhadhana mat paramaha bhaktaste tiva me priyaha. So these 20 values, they constitute the dharma, amritam, the amritam dharma. So we have laws outside, like how we have to drive on the road, what speed, what side of the road, what, wearing the mask. These are all the kind of things that is on an external side, we need to do it. But internally, what are all those dharma and the values? And that's what he's talking about. Yetu dharmyam ritamidam. When I follow yathoktam paryupasate with shraddha, shraddhadhana, mat paramaha, endowed with, and regarding him as supreme, bhaktaste tiva, those devotees are exceedingly dear to me. This again is in, we have the 6 Shadvida lingas of Shastras, which starts with having a beginning, Upasamhara, and so we have these 2 things where it tells us on how what is said in the beginning, what is said in the middle, and what is said at the end. They don't deviate from each other. And so the same things were said in in the second verse, and even in the verse 1155 of the 11th chapter. In all these areas, we saw the same words. So Lord Krishna is just bringing to close by explaining that I've said all this, and following this dharma, one can attain me with faith. When you have the faith in this, and when you have this, one can attain, and that is the ultimate teaching. So just to, I know we are running already 1 or 2 minutes, but I shouldn't take more than 2 minutes yet here. So as a summary, in this chapter, we saw what is Bhakti Yoga. Hopefully, this would have helped all of us to understand what Bhakti really means. So Bhakti is not praying to an external God with, when I go there. Bhakti is not where I am begging for something, but Bhakti is that devotion to the Absolute, recognizing it is that Absolute who is there in and through everything. So that is the nature of devotion we talked about, which is the nature of devotion is having complete faith. This was shown in the second shloka, having nitya yukta upasate shraddhadhana pariyopetaha teme yukta tamamataha, the second shloka. And then the nature of God. So God can be both saguna and nirguna. And I cannot help just having this one example here. For example, when what I have in my hand is a pot, right? But in and through the pot, what is really there? It is nothing but clay, isn't it? So whether I call this pot or a clay, it depends only upon my utility, right? So too, God is everywhere. But I don't recognize that God unless I see God in the forms, in the various forms, in the various beings, in the various things that's there in the universe. So the pot represents various beings. The clay represents that absolute Ishvara, the absolute Narayana, that absolute Brahman. So nature of God was also something we saw here. Nature of devotees, we saw the 36 values. And then the practice of devotion itself, which was shown in the shlokas from almost 6 through 12. So the concluding verse, we have seen now in 20 verses how much we have learned. So the last verse is Om Tat Saditi Srimad Bhagavad Gita Su Upanishatsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Bhakti Yogo Nama Dvadashodhyayaha. So we have this verse which says that this is a dialogue between Lord Krishna and Arjuna in the battlefield, and it is about the teaching of Bhakti Yoga, and encased in this 12th chapter. So this brings to the end of the 4th session, and let me find this. I would like to offer my humble gratitude to the Balaji Temple management, especially Sridharji, who has been such a proponent of wanting to spread the Sanatana Dharma, and who has encouraged us and who has given us this platform to share our own ideas. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank Satish ji, who ever smiling, ever enthusiastic, full of life, wanting to help us with the IT here with the platform, and we did not have one single problem all these 4 sessions. And thank you so much, Satish ji, for this. And I would like to thank all you sadhaks for being here and giving us an opportunity to share our ideas with you. So with the blessings of the Lord and with the by the grace of the Lord and the blessings of our Guru Parampara, I would like to offer this at the feet of all the Gurus from whom we have learned. Hari Om. So before I hand it over to Satish ji, I want to also give you an idea as to what we have been involved with ever since we came back from Sandipani. One thing I want to say before we go to that is we will actually, so Sridharji has requested me to give a next series of lectures, which I'm very excited about, and that is on the Chatushloki Bhagavatam. So what is Chatushloki Bhagavatam? It is basically the essence of Bhagavatam in only 4 verses. So you know how big Bhagavatam is, right? The number of shlokas, a lot. But if you want to know what the essence, again, another pill which can capture the essence of Bhagavatam, that I will starting on September 12th, on Saturdays, between 11:30 to 12:30 p.m. We'll send the flyer out pretty soon. Most likely it should go for 4 to 6 weeks. I'm still trying to determine. I'm thinking it will go for 6 weeks, but I'm also trying to see, based on the ideas on what I want to present in this one, it'll be 4 to 6 weeks. As you know, Bhagavatam being such a huge text, I don't want to leave anything out, but yet focusing on the essence is what I want to do in this Chatushloki Bhagavatam. And this again will be online. In addition, since in 2 weeks' time, we're going to start with the Balavihar, the Chinmaya Mission classes will start. The one thing that I've been involved with as part of Chinmaya Mission Ann Arbor is we have an introductory Vedanta class, which is Bhajagovindam, which started a few months ago, and that is on Sundays from 2 to 3:15, and this will start on the Sunday, September 13th, I believe. There's another Vedanta class, which is a little more advanced, where Drigdasha Vivek is a text that is continuing right now from 4 to 5:15. And and then we also have a couple of study groups, which is happening on, sorry, I think I missed that. We have a couple of study groups, which is, there it is. Study groups, which is on Fridays from 6:45 to 7:45, where currently we are on Bhagavad Gita chapter 13, and then Tattva Bodh, which is from 8:15 to 9:15. All these are ongoing at this time. And again, study groups is where we have lots of discussion. All my job is to do is to moderate the discussions. And we also have chanting and meditation classes. This is in the early morning from 5:30 to 6 a.m., Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays online. And Sanskrit level 1 from 7 to 7:45 p.m. and 8 to 8:45 p.m. on the same day, Mondays. In addition, Ashok was also taking the same similar classes around the same time frame. If anybody wants to know any details, you can let me know. So with that, thank you. My pranams and Hari Om to all of you. Stay safe, stay healthy, and Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayah, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukkha bhag bhavet. Om shanti shanti shanti. Om purnamada purnamidam purnat purnamudachyate purnasya purnamadaya purnameva vashishyate. Om shanti shanti shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.
Sunitha ji, if I may say one or two words to thank you. So it is absolutely an amazing 4 weeks. On behalf of the Balaji Temple of Great Lakes, I would like to thank you, Dr. Sunitha ji, for a wonderful 4 weeks of enlightened lecture on the role of Bhagavatam and also the idea of what a Bhakti Yoga is. I've learned a lot. And I want to thank you and also the participants to take their time to listen through it. I do want to say that these are recorded and these videos are available. I go there time to time to hear your wonderful lecture. So again, on behalf of Balaji Temple of Great Lakes, may the Perumal and Tayar's blessings are with you and with Shobji too. And so talk to you soon, see you soon. And good, stay safe everybody. Take care.
Hari Om. See you,
Bye.
everyone.